Welcome everybody to Casting for Two. Normally this is episode number 257, FYI. But normally this is where I would kind of do shop talk, but I don't want to do that today for this episode because this is a very special episode for me. Mr. Mike Score, the lead singer and founder of the band of Flock of Seagulls, drops by in this episode, and I just wanted to talk about how much I appreciate him for doing that, one, giving me the opportunity to chat with him, but also this past winter, I was going through some pretty hard times with family and friends, and I don't know how or where it came out, but I heard Space Age Love Song and Wishing off their first album, Ascension, and it really helped me get past the harder times. So when this opportunity came up, I absolutely freaked out and was... when you listen to this episode, I think I might have passed out, but I was so excited for the opportunity. I just got to thank EXO Publicity for letting me chat with Mr. Mike. A Flock of Seagulls, they actually have their very first album, Ascension. They're re-releasing it with the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra, and all the songs are so beautiful, and it's such a great album. I urge everybody to go out there and pick it up. It's definitely one that you want to own. But I think I should stop talking, and we're going to just get right into this episode. Once again, so much fun. I love what I do. And with that, cue the music, Chris. So this, the show I do, it's a pretty loose show where I'm not going to ask you any heavy questions, or I hope not heavy questions, but I'm more interested in hearing about you and music and what makes you you, pretty much.
Okay. I think I've got a handle on
that. I'm also very curious about sleeping patterns. I'm curious, how much sleep do you get?
Let's see. I go through weird stages where sometimes I'll sleep all day, but I'll be up all night for a couple of nights.
Yeah.
Usually just working in my studio and stuff like that. And then other times I'm up at 7 in the morning and doing things I need to do, so I have the afternoons free to work. So it's kind of it's certainly not like up at 7 and in bed at 10. Sometimes it switches around completely. And as I get older, it seems to change more. I would say probably, probably on an average, I get 4 to 5 hours a night.
Oh, okay. I've always been one to, I feel like I'm more productive on less sleep versus getting a lot more sleep.
That's probably because tiredness induces hallucinations.
Yes. Yeah. I'm also, there's, after this point when I'm really tired, it's just the filter in my brain goes away, and I'm just like, I don't care right now. Let's do work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's like studio work. You get in the studio and suddenly, you go up, say, to the studio at 1 in the morning, and suddenly it's 8 in the morning, and you've had a million ideas through the night. That if you were trying to do that during the day, there's too many distractions.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
So
I'm wondering, has there ever been a moment where uh, you've just you've gone through this period of, hey, I haven't slept at all, and I have no idea what I did, and then you listen to the work in the morning. I'm like, that's I'm a genius. I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
I've never thought I was a genius at anything. I always think I kind of tend to think, oh, that's pretty good. I could do better than that, though. So
Gotcha.
and I don't really like one of the things I do is I'll start writing a song, and then
Hmm.
halfway through that song, something I do will trigger off an idea for a different song. So I end up with like maybe in a night getting 4 or 5 bits of songs. Instead of having gone through the night and created a whole song, it's like tangents of that song, and then I have to sit down at some point and go, oh, I got to turn this into a song now.
So let me ask you this: when did you know music was something you wanted to pursue?
Never. It's kind of weird because I went to see a few bands in Liverpool when I was in my 20s. I mean, I
Hmm.
was in a band when I was 14. It was just me and a friend, and that was a lot of fun, just banging around on guitars and stuff. Then when I was in my 20s, I started to go and see some punk bands and stuff like that. And I looked at them and I went, yeah, I could do this. I could do that. I could, you know. So that kind of re-triggered my interest. But as far as saying, what really took my interest, I always tell people I never wanted to be a musician. And I
Hmm.
don't think I am a musician. I think I'm more of like a musical ideas kind of person because I'm not a great player. I'll play anything, but I won't play it great. I mean, some
Yeah.
people like stick to guitar and play it for years, and they end up being great players. That's not me. But I can like sit down at a keyboard, and in 5 minutes I'll be writing a song, or even on a guitar. So, but what really inspired me to be like that was, I think, the fact that you can do it at any time. You don't have to look at it as 8 hours practice and stuff like that. You
Right.
just kind of go, hey, I'm watching TV. I'll pick up my guitar and, strum for half an hour and something might come out. So um, that's one thing. And then there's other times nothing comes out for weeks. Everything you play, you go, that's horrible. Um, so I think really, and I've also tried to not be in music a couple of times, and then all of a sudden I find myself like sitting at the keyboard or something and going, oh, I thought you weren't going to do this anymore. So I think music chose me rather than me choosing music.
Gotcha. It's your destiny to play music, and you're not, and you that's what you're gonna do, no matter what you like it or not.
I think so, yeah. I was chosen to do it. I mean, there's lots of things I'd like to do, but music always seems to be the thing that it comes back to.
And so, as a person who's been, creating music for a while now, how for you yourself, how do you keep it fresh?
Um, I buy new equipment.
Yeah.
I buy toys. I call them toys. They're just bits and pieces. And um, I never try to copy anyone really. I'll take influence, but I won't copy.
Hmm.
Um, and I think if you do buy a new toy, even if it just makes one sound that you like, then the way I think is I'll write a song off that sound, or a song comes to me from that sound, and I might not play that thing again for years. I've got like,
Mm.
about 50 guitars and 30 or 40 synths. And it just depends on the day that I go up and turn one on and go, oh, wow, that's a cool sound, or, something like that. Um, and I never sit down and go, oh, that's a cool sound. I'm going to learn to play something on that. I just start writing a song. So that
Yeah.
to me keeps it fresh, because my favorite part of the whole thing of being a musician is, first is writing a song, and secondly is actually playing live.
Nice. And so, as far as you mentioned your equipment slash toys, is there one piece of equipment that you wish you had when you were first starting out?
Everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started out, I had a little mono synth, and then I managed to find another synth. And it's also what you can afford when you first start out,
Right.
You
Yeah.
don't, you're like, well, I was really in my 20s, I'd say, when it became a serious thing. But by then I had a family and a baby to look after. So it was, what can I afford to buy? So I bought some cheap synths, and I was just lucky, I think, that I was inspired enough on them to write stuff like I Ran and Space Age. Even when we came to doing our second album, and I had access to really expensive synths, I literally preferred the cheap ones, because I'd created some sounds on them and I knew what to do with them. The more expensive things get, the more complicated they get. Really, you like to keep it simple.
Oh yeah, I remember. I feel like it's a rite of passage where you have to start out with, I don't want to say bad equipment, but just kind of crappier third hand equipment. I feel like if
Right.
you can master that, then you do deserve that big, nice, shiny new synth.
Yeah, I mean, one of my problems today is, and it's getting addressed actually, because the latest synth I bought is back to a mono synth like I had, 35 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So things are getting simpler, but I also have some synths that can do anything. And
Yeah.
it's literally a case of, I would literally have to sit down for maybe 3 or 4 months to learn what this synth can do. Instead of just pressing one or two buttons and going, "Ooh, I like that." Now you're into pages and pages of software, and
Right.
which is great, but it takes away from that initial, "Hey, what a great sound! I'm going to write a song." And I think that's how you end up with 1,000 bands all sounding the same, is because they don't sit down and change the sound. They just go, "Oh, look, there's that sound that that other band used. I'm going to use that." So you end up with 50 Depeche Modes or stuff like that, all trying to sound like their heroes, when really you should never try and sound like anyone else.
Right, right, and also just basically have an appreciation for music in general. Where it's funny how I was having this conversation with a coworker. He was talking about rap. I was like, "Who's your favorite rapper of all time?" And it was somebody new, and I was like, "Well, have you listened to this guy?" It was like I don't know, Tupac, somebody like that.
Yeah.
And he had no idea who Tupac. And I was like, dude, you need learn some like rap appreciation.
Yeah, where
Seriously,
it
man.
came from, so you can see where you are. Yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
to me it's like, every genre of music. I'm not a fan of rap,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
hip hop, but there are good songs from that. Songs that you actually hum along with, even though you go, "Oh, I don't like that genre so much," but that's a great song. You know,
Yeah.
um, and I do that with country. I do it with heavy metal, even though I'm like, still kind of a new wave 80s kind of sounding guy. But
Yeah.
you have to try and appreciate, especially if you're a songwriter, you have to appreciate what makes a good song, not just, I'm stuck in my heavy metal day or my hip hop days or whatever. So, but as a musician, guitar player, stuff like that, I mean, most rap people and hip hoppers, they don't look at themselves as musicians. I think they look at themselves as producers.
Hmm.
So
Oh yeah.
it's like, "Oh, I'm a producer. I just need to get somebody to sing over this beat, that I've created." And to me, that's not really music, but it could be songwriting. So,
Right.
um, yeah, I try and appreciate, but I try, like I said before, not to copy, but maybe to have influence.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the Beatles are still influencing me.
Right. Yeah, and it's so funny when you look at a lot of I guess rock bands. I can't speak for rappers, unfortunately. But yeah, dissecting, what inspired you? What inspired you? If you keep going on down the line, I mean, the Beatles were a huge inspiration on a lot of people.
Yep. And
Yeah.
but everything from that period, I mean, you know, the Beatles may have been the greatest band of the 60s, but
Right.
there's also like The Move and stuff like that, which wrote some great songs, you know, and you know, for me being British, it was more like a British thing, and I didn't get into American rock until you know, till I moved here, basically.
Yeah.
But I can understand how kids get into rap and all that, because that's the way they live, and you know, it's their street sound, if you know what I mean. And to me, it wasn't, so I don't really understand it. But
Yeah.
you know, you got to accept that it's there.
No, absolutely. Now, I'm curious. What is the difference between like British rock and American rock?
Again, going back to what I said before, I think British bands are more apt to try and be individual
Oh, okay.
and have their own thing, whereas American bands tend to copy each other. You know, because I just think it's part of the way of life in America is that's a number one. You need to be like that, you know.
Yeah.
But
Oh, okay. Yeah.
in England they go, that's a number one. Why don't you try and top that with your own thing, you know? And because England's a much smaller country, things turn over much quicker, so the rewards can happen quicker, but in America they happen bigger.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. And I'm curious. So again, I love talking about writing music. It's something that I've done once, and I'm retired at. It wasn't even that great,
Uh-huh.
but
Hey, if
when
it's
you
great to
look,
you, then it's great.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's why I was like, I'm retiring now. I'm done. But when you play some of your songs that you wrote a long time early in your career, do you ever get flashback to how your emotional status when you were writing that song? Is it weird to go back and relive that?
I get it. Yeah, when we play live, I, you know, because a lot of live stuff is really muscle memory. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I could play that stuff probably standing there with my eyes closed, half asleep. But sometimes, yeah, you get a flashback of, oh, I remember doing this the first time, you know, that line or where that came from, or things like that, you know, what inspired that. And sometimes you'd have like a little flashback and a little smile, you know, about where that song came from, what it was really about. I have flashbacks to us rehearsing some of the stuff we did in the early 80s. So, you know, live playing is different to just going, hey, we're playing live. It's a whole
Right.
onstage environment of nostalgia and memories, and sometimes you're playing a song and you go, wow, I could really reuse this and write a new song from it. It's very random, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. And do you have any horror stories from any live shows?
Um, in a way, every live show has its paradise moments and its horror moments.
Uh-huh.
The worst thing is I have forgotten lyrics sometimes because I've literally been thinking of something else,
Yeah.
you know, and so I've had to kind of like repeat a verse, and then somewhere in my head I go, damn, I just sang the first verse twice, and you know, hope nobody noticed. And then I start to go, oh, I can understand those singers that you can't understand now, because if they can't remember words, they can just mumble it out. People put it
Right.
in their own heads.
Right. Or they'll say, "Hey, audience, you sing this."
Yeah. Or someone will say, "Did you change the lyrics?" And you go, "Yeah, well, you know, I'm it's my song. I can do what I like." That's what I tell people all the time. I wrote it so I can change it.
There you
My
go.
little joke.
There you go. And so you got the guys from Flock of Seagulls all back together. What was the process of getting everyone back together like?
Well, to tell you the truth, I didn't do it. I was
Mhm.
approached by August Day Records with the idea of doing basically a best of with an orchestra.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, that sounds interesting. And then a couple of weeks later, they called me and said, um, we're big fans of the first album and all that, and we'd like to try and get everybody together. So, the original members. So I said, well,
Yeah.
if they'll all do it, I'll do it. So they contacted everybody. Everybody was up for it. It wasn't a case of let's all get together and do this.
Right.
It was literally a case of, because we two live in England, two in America, and we're all, hundreds of miles apart. And with today's technology, it was like, well, okay, I'll go into a studio in London. A couple of the guys can go into a studio in Liverpool, and my brother Ali can go to a studio in Raleigh where he lives.
Mhm.
And we don't really have to get together. We're together as far as playing our parts,
Yeah.
So it was a kind of get together without getting together. And it worked out really well because it's songs that we all knew our parts really well. So it wasn't like we had to rehearse or anything. And technology allowed us to put it together without literally being a band.
Yeah. And I was it awesome hearing your classic songs, but with orchestral accompaniment.
It was unexpected, It was
Yeah.
because most of the parts that were orchestrated were the synth parts, right? And like I
Yeah.
said, I'm not really a player, but when I did those songs, it was just basic synth. So to hear an orchestra, it was a completely different tangent of
Yeah.
thinking, and it was kind of like, and the funny thing is, yeah, now I've inspired myself to include orchestra maybe in stuff that I write now.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So
adds just an extra layer for sure.
yeah, and I think people that know the songs, in fact, a lot of people have already said to me, wow, with an orchestra, that sounds fantastic. And then I go, what, you mean you don't like the synths? but but yeah, it's a whole new way of listening to it, So it's great. I love it.
Nice, nice. And so for the people at home, because you're releasing the album soon, for the people at home, where can they pick up the remixed album as well as keep up with everything that you guys do?
Well, it's obviously like Facebook pages and pages on the internet. I'm not really an internet kind of person. I grew up without it, and I don't find it that necessary for my life. Some people
Hmm.
live on it. Some people, they put down having breakfast, bacon and eggs, whatever. And to me, that's like, I could be doing other things rather than wondering what people are saying about my breakfast. So
Right.
that's all down to the record company and publicity companies and stuff like that. But I'm sure once it's released, there's going to be a bit of a blast. So people will definitely find out where to get it.
There you go. There you go. And for anybody, any I guess aspiring young musicians, do you have any advice for them?
I would say only play stuff that you enjoy.
Mm.
Don't worry if you're not that proficient at actually playing. If you can't play, write. And if you can't write, play. But just enjoy it because, if you want to be successful and you're not enjoying it, you're not successful.
Right.
So really just enjoy playing with your friends. Don't worry about if your buddy is not the best drummer in the world, just have fun with it because that's more or less what it's about. I don't think anybody joins a band and goes, I'm going to be a superstar.
Right.
I think bands that enjoy what they're doing become superstars because they enjoy it and it comes across to people.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, there's so many of these people who, I guess now, in the day of the internet, are like, oh, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be famous. It's like, well, you should just probably make it about the music and have fun.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, it also seems that these days fame is not what it was. You used to have to work to be famous. Now you can be famous overnight, and and then people try and live their whole lives off that. And really, if you can become famous overnight like that, it's probably not worth having.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. Completely
fame isn't riches. I'd rather be rich than famous, to tell you the truth.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate it, and it's an honor. I'm going to say that.
Okay, cheers, man.
But
talk to you again
you have
sometime, then.
Oh, absolutely. But you have a wonderful day. All right.
Okay, and you too. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.